For the second time in a few days, the Russians launched a mechanized assault on Dobropillia. The occupiers are trying to recapture the village of Volodymyrivka from our defenders, where enemy troops are partially blocked. However, the occupiers' vehicles are burning and their infantry is dying. And it's not just thanks to Ukrainian FPV drones. Ukrainian rocket forces are also helping to repel these attacks. An MLRS system firing long-range rockets once again helped stop the Russian advance. This is a HIMARS-type system. And how it happened was witnessed by TSN special correspondent Yulia Kyrienko. Watch her report next.
A rocket is flying toward a column of Russian vehicles heading to storm the outskirts of Dobropillia. 6 tanks, several dozen armored vehicles and hundreds of Russian infantry on motorcycles tried to break through to the village of Volodymyrivka to cut off our troops and unblock their own. This is the longest-range MLRS, the American multiple launch rocket system. It is from these launchers that our troops fire HIMARS missiles, and now they are about to go into action. However, not with those, but with another type of missile targeting the enemy in the Dobropillia direction. The operator is preparing to fire again. The morning is extremely intense, say the rocket troops. There hasn't been an enemy assault like this on this section of the front for several months in a row. Shots from long-range artillery are echoing from every tree line. There are 2 people operating this MLRS. While one controls the tracked vehicle, the other enters the firing data into the tablet. Another rocket flies toward the convoy and actually stops it. The rocket operators fire the MLRS with such confidence because they are the very first crew of this vehicle since it was delivered to Ukraine by international partners. At the very beginning of the full-scale invasion, the soldiers worked with Smerch systems, and in 2022, even when they went abroad for training, they didn't immediately believe they would switch to the MLRS.
We actually learned everything in just 3 weeks. We arrived and started working with these systems on the 3rd day.
They sent us for training. We completed the course. At first, of course, no one believed that they would actually deliver them to Ukraine. But eventually, to our surprise, we did receive them and immediately got to work.
This rocket system is just like the HIMARS, except that one is wheeled, while the MLRS is on a Bradley-tracked platform, so it's not at all afraid of the muddy fields of Donetsk region. It moves quickly between tree lines to choose the best firing position. With it, the rocket troops destroyed more than one enemy shelter, especially after, a year later in 2023, they received long-range HIMARS missiles.
There were artillery pieces, there were command posts, there were UAV posts, there was infantry, there were dugouts, there were structures.
All the targets that exist, all that are possible.
With the HIMARS, of course, they could reach even further, deep into the rear of the occupied territories.
It was about a year ago with those HIMARS. About a year ago this happened.
300 kilometers up to 500, those are the ones they gave us. You can hit targets located in the rear, including those same command posts.
At that time, the missile force's soldiers significantly decapitated the enemy's army. Now they are covering our assault troops during the Dobropillia operation. They say they're not sparing the missiles and there are reserves, although they've repeatedly felt how political circumstances on the international stage affect supplies.
It comes in waves somehow. Sometimes something up there at the top doesn't work out for them. There were delays. Then, everything got sorted out. Now it's stable. We finished the job, they brought more. For now, there's nothing to work with.
So the launcher heads out to the Donetsk fields again and prepares another rocket for firing. The enemy took advantage of the bad weather and under the cover of fog moved in with vehicles to launch an assault. But this fog also works in favor of the rocket crews, as it hides the MLRS from Russian reconnaissance drones, for which such a system is a prime target. To destroy it, the occupiers don't even spare their Iskander. Still, even with the fog, vigilance is essential. So, after each shot, the MLRS crew changes position, and while they're moving to a new one, the vehicle commander receives a message from headquarters. The columns of Russians have been completely stopped. Now it's up to the FPV drone operators, who finish off enemy equipment on the battlefield, burning it to completely halt the Russian assault. Yulia Kyrienko, Alexander Shiyan, Ole Mostovyi, TSN 1+1.
Enemy infantry north of Kupiansk tries to cross the Oskil River every day, and every time they are stopped by the artillerymen of the Karadag Unit, 15th Brigade of the National Guard of Ukraine's Rapid Response Force. Their 105mm howitzers, although quite old weapons, perform their tasks very effectively. The film crew of TSN correspondent Alexander Motorny saw this with their own eyes. And during the report, there will be a QR code on your screens. This is a fundraiser for drones for the 15th National Guard Brigade, so if you can, please don't stay on the sidelines.
I want to congratulate all of you on this holiday. These are your treats. Thank you for standing up to defend your native country in such a difficult time.
Amid the echoes of enemy shell explosions, the commander of the artillery battalion of the 15th Operational Brigade of the National Guard of Ukraine. This time he was presenting awards right at the combat position in the field.
Recognized with the President of Ukraine's Award for the Defense of Ukraine.
The 23-year-old warrior Karadag met the full-scale war as a conscripted soldier. Now, in the Kupiansk area of Kharkiv region, he serves as a gunner on a 105mm howitzer. He says this award belongs to the entire crew, and he knows exactly what it's for.
I signed a contract for 20 years, maybe even for my whole life.
How long have you been fighting?
Well, since the beginning of the war, the full-scale one, for the defense of your homeland, for the fact that we are defending against the enemy and also delivering a very powerful fire strike.
We couldn't ask the gunner for more details because he had to deliver that very fire strike against the enemy. We're adjusting. Perfect.
Range 400. "76 units have been successfully loaded and are now ready for deployment. All preparations are complete."
Since the beginning of autumn, the soldiers say, recently the Russians have seriously intensified their assault efforts around Kupiansk, especially on the western bank of the Oskil.
Right now, for the most part, we're holding back the enemy's advance. The ongoing assault is being carried out entirely on foot. They meticulously cross over the treacherous river and then attempt to bravely storm our well-defended positions.
The Russians don't have any heavy armored vehicles on the western bank of the river, the National Guardsmen assure. Similarly, since summer, they haven't seen any enemy motorcyclists or buggies in this area. The Russians are trying to ferry only infantry across the channel using rubber boats.
These aren't pontoons, it's just an ordinary rope stretched across. The small boat is securely tied to it, and they then use the boat to diligently try to cross over to this opposite bank. We use the cannon to hold back their advance. Every morning we hit them, and the next day there's a new crossing, a little bit in a different place, and so it goes on endlessly. Every day there are attempts to force the Oskil River,
not allowing the enemy to cross the river. Now this is their daily job, says the gunner. But most often they target the enemy's assault groups.
Small sabotage and reconnaissance groups, usually 2 or 3 people, gather and move out in the first wave. And we, as they say, catch them like bait. We are given the coordinates of their gatherings in the forest belts, and we fire there. Fire on command.
Their howitzer, half a century old and of Soviet origin, may not be the largest artillery caliber, but it shoots quite accurately, assures the commander of the 15th Brigade of the National Guard of Ukraine.
If the first ranging shot lands well, then with 2 or 3 more we'll hit the target.
At the same time, every shot they fire also serves as a reference point for enemy drones and artillery, which usually operate from the eastern bank of the river.
They fly around, yes, both over the window and above the field.
They try to camouflage themselves carefully and, unless absolutely necessary, don't even come up to the surface from underground. But when fire support is needed, their 105s, the beekeeper's crew, instantly gets to work.
Loaded. Loaded. Gun is ready now. Good job, well done. The task was to fire at the infantry. The first shell landed nearby, and with the second shell, we hit the target. They said, "Well done, guys. You hit exactly where you needed to. Gun, stand on."
This is happening in a static manner. They keep trying and trying. Every day, 10, 15, or even 20 enemy servicemen. We eliminate them, and so it goes every day.
From the Kupiansk section of the front in Kharkiv region, Alexander Motorny, Oleksiy Osavchuk, and Serhiy Shportilo. TSN 1+1, United News Marathon.